Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a Darklord deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck that focuses around summoning out its awesome boss monster, the first Darklord, which is such a cool card. I've included some spicy tech cards in this build for you guys, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Again, your name, description, every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Darklord Morningstar. This card is definitely a one-of in the build that we're always going to be using to go in for our copy of the first Darklord, because it gives your copy of the first Darklord a bonus effect if you use this card as a material. This card is a really cool ability. If this card is tribute summon, you can special summon Darklord monsters from your hand or deck up to the number of effect monsters that your opponent controls, helping you swarm the board to go in for game. This card is a great one-of in the build, but I feel like you only need a single copy of this card in the build. We then play 3 copies of Darklord A Shell. Darklord A Shell has a really cool effect that you can discard this card and a Darklord card to be able to draw 2 cards, which is a really cool ability just to help you dig into the deck for the exact cards that you need. And it also has a really cool ability that during either player's turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and then target a Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard and apply the target's effect, then shuffle that target back into the deck, which is great to be able to recycle your resources and use your Darklord cards that are in the graveyard, which is really cool to get bonus effects. We then play 2 copies of Darklord Nazdan. Darklord Nazdan has a really cool ability to summon itself out to your side of the field by discarding 2 other Darklord cards. You can special summon this card from your hand, and it also has the exact same ability, just like your copy of A Shell, that you can pay 1,000 life points to be able to shuffle a Darklord spell or trap back into your deck from your graveyard to copy that card's ability. We then play a single copy of Darklord Nirgal. Nirgal is really good as a 1-F in the deck because if your fairy monster attacks a defenseless monster, it inflicts piercing damage to your opponent, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Amadeus. Amadeus is great to be able to just recycle your resources because you can discard this card and a Darklord card and then target a Darklord card in your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is a great ability. This card and your copy of Nirgal also have the similar effect, just like your copy of A Shell, to be able to recycle one of your Darklord spells or traps to basically just copy that card's ability by paying 1,000 life points. We then play 3 copies of Darklord Superbia. Darklord Superbia is great as a 3-of in the build, because this card has the ability, when this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target a fairy monster in your graveyard except Superbia and special summon that target. The only downside of this card is a win effect, so it can miss timing, which is a little bit unfortunate, but this card is still a definite 3-of in the build to be able to bring back to your side of the field and then bring back an additional Darklord to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Darklord Zerato. Darklord Zerato is an awesome 1-of in the deck that's basically like a walking Raigeki that has the ability that you can basically send a dark monster from your hand to the graveyard to destroy all monsters that your opponent controls, which is a really cool effect just to help you board wipe the field. But if you activate this effect, then you destroy this card during the end phase of the turn, but that's totally fine because you're usually OTKing your opponent after you activate that ability. We then play 3 copies of Indulge Darklord. Indulge Darklord is definitely a 3-of in the build. It's probably the best normal summon in the entire deck. With the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can take 2 Darklord monsters from your hand or deck with different levels except Indulge Darklord, special summon one of them to your opponent's field and defense, and add the other to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to instantly grab the exact card that you need. We then play a single copy of Capricornus Darklord. I have been playtesting this card at 1 recently, and I really like it because you can hand this card to your opponent with your copy of Indulged, and it has the ability that during the main phase, quick effect, activate this effect to tribute summon a fairy monster face up. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can make all monsters that your opponent currently controls lose 500 attack and defense for each fairy monster on the field until the end of this turn, which is a pretty cool ability. We then play a single copy of Ukobak deck, Ukobak is a walking foolish burial for any of your Darklord cards, which is a great ability. We then finally play a single copy of Arklord Christia. Arklord Christia is just a great one-of in this build, because this card has the ability if you have exactly 4 fairy monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, and if it's summoned this way, you get to target a fairy monster in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Also, neither player can special summon monsters at all, which is crazy about this card, to basically just lock down your opponent, and it's so cool, because once we summon out this card, neither player gets to special summon, and by that time, we've already swarmed the board. And if this face-up card would be sent from the field to the grave, you place it on top of your deck instead, so you just get it back so you can summon it out again. So, that's it for the monsters. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Greater Polymerization. Greater Polymerization is really cool as a 2-of in the build to summon out our boss monster, the first Darklord, because this card does require 3 Dark Fairy monsters to make this card, and this card just gives it some really good bonus effects. That it lets you fusion summon out 1 monster from your extra deck using 3 monsters or more from your hand or field as fusion material, and if you do, it gains these abilities that it cannot be destroyed by card effects, and it gives it piercing damage, which is really cool to be able to give a 4,000 attack point boss monster piercing damage. We then play 3 copies of Banishment of the Darklords. Banishment of the Darklords is basically Rhoda for the deck, letting you add any Darklord card you want from your deck to your hand, but it is a once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Darklord Contact. Darklord Contact is Monster Reborn for the deck. It lets you special summon a Darklord monster from your graveyard in defense position, and it is a once per turn, but you can recycle these cards with your Darklord cards like a shell, which is really good to be able to recycle those cards to your deck to be able to basically copy them and get a second use out of them in a single turn, which is just so cool to be able to use these cards. We then play 3 copies of Upstart Goblin. Upstart Goblin is awesome in this deck as a 3-of to basically just draw an additional card, and it helps out a lot to basically make this deck a 37 card deck. This card is really good in this build because you don't worry about giving your opponent 1,000 life points. You just want that draw power, and it's insane that this card is back at basically 3, and it's so good. Speaking of draw power, we also play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is really good to help us draw 2 and then banish a dark monster, but this card is amazing in the build overall, just to help you dig into the deck. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization is really good in this deck to be able to break our opponent's board while also giving us an awesome boss monster, especially since we hand our opponent a Darklord monster with Indulge Darklord, which is just so cool for this card to be able to do. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Darklord Rebellion. Darklord Rebellion is great as a 1-of because this card lets you send a Darklord monster from your hand or face or from field to the grave to destroy 1 card on the field, and you can use this card with your copy of a shell to be able to basically recycle this card with any of those monsters that have that ability to basically recycle your resources and put this card back into the deck and then use this card's ability. And the cool thing is when you do that, you don't have to pay cost for it. It just lets you pop a card. We then play a single copy of the Sanctified Darklord. The Sanctified Darklord is really good as a 1-of in the build because this card has the ability to let you send a Darklord monster from your hand or face up from your field to the grave to negate the effects of 1 effect monster on the field until the end of the turn, and if you do, gain life points equal to its attack, which is a really cool ability to basically just use this card as a negate. We then play 3 copies of Necrofusion. Necrofusion is really good to help us make additional copies of the first Darklord, or be able to make the first Darklord, which is great to be able to do with this card, because it lets us fusion summon a fusion monster from our extract by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from our graveyard face down, but it cannot attack this turn, but that's totally fine, because we're basically going to set this card and activate it during the opponent's turn to be able to summon out the copy of the first Darklord, which is just really good to be able to do. I absolutely love this card as a 3-of in the deck, because we're constantly getting rid of Darklords from our hand with cards like Nastin and Ishel to be able to send them to the graveyard to be able to use their abilities, and it's just really good in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with the first Darklord. I actually considered playing this card at 3 in this build because of how fast I summon this card out to my side of the field. This card is absolutely crazy because it has the ability, it just takes 3 Dark Fairy monsters to make this card, and your opponent cannot target fairy monsters that you control with card effects. It also has the ability you can use one of the following effects of this card per turn, and only once that turn. If this card was fusion summoned using Darklord Morningstar as a material, you destroy all cards that your opponent currently controls, which is absolutely crazy to be able to just board wipe your opponent. It also has the ability during the main phase, quick effects, you can pay 1,000 life points to special summon a fairy monster from your hand or grave in defense position, being able to give you another card on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Garua and a single copy of Mud Dragon. These cards are great in the deck to be able to use as super poly targets and overall fantastic cards. We then play a single copy of number 97. Number 97 is really good in this deck as a one-of to be able to help you make your copy of number 38 or your copy of number 100, either giving you a 9,000 attack point monster or giving you a spell negate, which is really good, but usually we just summon out the 9,000 attack point number 100 to help us OTK your opponent. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is really good to be able to board wipe your opponent. Play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon just belongs in just about any deck, and this card is amazing to be able to make in this build. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code's great in this build to be able to pop multiple cards on the field, but usually you're just making the first Darklord anyway, so these cards are just options that you can make in this build. We then play a single copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This deck is filled with high-level monsters, so this card is really good to be able to make in the build. You see, this card is link summon using a level 7 or higher monster as material, then your opponent cannot target it with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either. And when it destroys a monster by battle, it can either gain 15 under attack, it can make a second attack during the battle phase of the next turn, or you can banish a card non-targeting. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, one copy of Condemned Darklord. Now this is a card that you do make in the deck quite a lot, and this card is just really good as a one-of because it has the ability that you can tribute summon a fairy monster that requires a 2 tributes by banishing 2 monsters from your grave instead of tributing monsters, and it's still treated as a tribute summon. And you can also discard a card to take a Darklord monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard, which is a really good effect. And also once per turn during your end phase, you can gain 500 life points for each fairy monster on the field, giving you a little bit of a boost. We then play a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is great to be able to play in this deck. You can change it out for Nightmare Phoenix if you want to for a more budget option, but this card is still really good in the deck because it's a double interruption. We then play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is great to be able to make SP Little Knight or Nightmare Unicorn during the opponent's turn, which is just absolutely amazing. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Darklords before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's a really cool deck to be able to play, and it's just an awesome deck overall. I absolutely love Darklords. I've been playing it ever since it was released, and it's just a really cool deck, especially with all these spicy tech cards that I've included, like Necrofusion, helping you go into multiple copies of the first Darklord. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.